This podcast is part of E2C Network, where we share the whole Auburn experience. David Housel described it best. We are living the whole of the Auburn experience. You can quantify it, you can qualify it through a variety of methods, time, people, places, and things. But at its heart and at its core, the Auburn experience is all about a few things: Auburn sports, Auburn culture, and of course, the Auburn family. An easier way to say it might be, though, if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. So thank you so much for joining us and what we're going to be doing on episode 134 of the Auburn Experience podcast. We're back again. I'm your host, as always, Kyle Loomis. Alongside me, the better host, the other co-host, Mr. Austin Scott. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. War Eagle Kyle, War Eagle to our viewers and listeners. Happy Sunday if you're listening live. Happy Monday if you're not listening live. So hope everybody's off to a great start of their week.
Yes, it's been a great hot week as it has been getting increasingly so across the Southeast. And I always have to remember this, Austin, that actually living in Auburn, I'm only like 2-ish hours away from you, but It's like a northeasterly, I guess I should say, route to get to where I am. It can be very drastic between Auburn and where I am, about sometimes like 5 degrees, and those 5 degrees on days and weeks and times of year like this can make all the difference. But I'm sure you'll take being in Auburn in the heat more than anywhere else.
Yeah, look, we'll take it. It better here than anywhere else. But man, this time of year, it feels like it just really doesn't matter all that much where you are in the Southeast, because it's scorched earth. And crazy enough, I feel like this summer has been somewhat mild compared to other ones. So that just means we'll get hit real hard on homecoming. Fall.
Yes, you know what's coming. We're all preparing for that early kickoff with homecoming and just being absolutely insanely still in the first quarter of the season. Makes absolutely no sense. I understand those that are making decisions. Your hands are tied. There are things that have to happen. I get it. Let me complain about it. Let me be upset about it. But it is what it is. The heat's here to stay. Before we get into all our major things, we'll get warmed up here. We are going to hit tonight Auburn potpourri, 2 major topics as well. I got to tell you, I went to a thrift store, Austin.
Oh dear,
up here in North Georgia, and I continue to. I shouldn't say be amazed, because it continues to happen, but just the fact that I continue to run into so much Auburn stuff up here, not even thrift stores, just like. I've told the story before. I went to Home Depot when I first moved up here, and they had more Auburn-like related stuff in there than even Georgia things, which was really weird. We're literally just down the street from, not that down the street, but close enough from Georgia. But at this thrift store,
depends on how fast you drive.
Certain people, yeah, they might get there a little bit quicker. It might seem a little quicker. Here's what I found, Austin. Have you seen an Auburn grill press, like a hamburger press, like you can grill the emblem into it? Have you seen that before?
I have not.
That is a first one for me. It was $199, and I'm regretting to inform you I did not buy it for some reason. Did I do something wrong by not snagging that piece of Auburn gear?
Man, I mean, that sounds like a tailgate upgrade. Like,
it does
immediately, like home or on campus. Like if you've got that, your tailgate just takes a little step up. I mean, look, a burger's a burger, but that's a nice little flair to add to it. I've never heard of that. It doesn't surprise me it's out there, but I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it was unopened, so obviously not used, nothing left residue-wise on it or anything like that.
Gross.
That would be very gross, but maybe there were some good tailgates that were had with it. But that was the main thing that happened. My brother-in-law was up here, and he loves going thrift store shopping and stuff like that, so we took him to a local one up here. And I left early because I got bored. I was like, I can't find anything Auburn. Well, sure enough, as soon as they walk out, he sends me a video of a Auburn hat that I kind of am regretting not going back and getting, because it was a trucker style hat, and you know how much I love trucker style hats. So maybe I might have to peruse my way up there, and there might be a new hat next week. I don't know. We'll see.
I like it.
That's what I got. That's what I had going on this week.
Well, yeah. In a similar vein, I know we've talked about it before, and I know I've talked about it with Clint before, but you've visited Angel Antiques before, right?
I'm sure it has been in the repertoire of places I've visited Auburn.
In Opelika.
Yeah.
So that's we frequented there quite a bit. That's a place we were at this week, and like you, did not get anything. but just an endless amount of things they always have. There's gloms if you're into the glom collecting. They never seem to have the like 4 Clint doesn't have left, because I always try to ask him. But just I think that is a hidden gem in Auburn Opelika area, and we got to go over there this week, and just a really cool place. Definitely not, you're not going to find the same type of things as like a thrift store. You might just different pricing, and it's certain people's vendor booths, but I'm always amazed at the Auburn stuff you can find in there of what people think. Actually, well,
show and tell.
Right.
Show and tell.
I thought it was about to be, but it's not. It's down. But there's, the Coke bottles that have like,
yeah.
I mean, if you want those, you can find 14,000 of them. Yes, but older.
Older, yes. Oh, show and tell time. So I'm gonna do my national champions one. Okay, it's show and look at that.
Yeah, like these. Like
that's good.
Should I drink this right now?
No, don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to yourself.
These are the 1983 SEC champion ones. But they've got, I think these are so cool. Now, I don't have a whole case of them like some of these booths do, but this is what I mean. I also have that one you're talking about, though. But yeah, I think one day we should drink these, Kyle.
Well, you do you, and I may say I'm going to do it and just watch what happens to you first and then try it later on. But I don't know. To me, once something's on the shelf, it stays there for life. I have a hard time breaking it off there. By the way, real quick, because we didn't talk about it last week, and I didn't really plan for us to talk about it in potpourri. I know you may not be moving into the college football 26 world, correct? Am I?
Yeah, I disappointed you when I said that last week when we talked on the phone. I think it's a financial decision at this point. Now I'm getting a lot of FOMO and a lot of there's a lot of changes this year, and I shared this with you, and I'll share it with everyone. When I was growing up, my parents' rule was, for me and my brother, was we got it every other year. Mm-hmm. It was not like a every year type of purchase. And I think in large part that was because it didn't change all that much other than the rosters.
Some would say that about this year too, but
someone could say that too, but it definitely feels like there's some more features. So I do have a little bit of FOMO, but have you gotten to play it? I know you were on the road last week. You've been all into it. I've been seeing our clips.
Yeah, listen, I've shared a few clips. We've got the intro at night out for the Iron Bowl, so I'm going to do a few more things like that for the channel and all the other social media. And we even did a little surprise TikTok stream of me playing and get my butt whooped. Yeah, it was. I told him, I said, look, it's first time playing online on this one. But it's really fun. I really like the playbook this year. Some would say it has, like, somebody tried to debate me on TikTok and said the playbook's the exact same. I'm saying I literally can promise you that the playbook is not the exact same, because I played it a lot on the last game. It may be very similar. It's still the RPO, very pass heavy, but it's very, I like it. And especially maybe with the way they rate people, certain speeds and things like that, makes it quite interesting this year for playing the game. So if you haven't, maybe you think about forking over the $70 at this point for it, and we can get on a little online dynasty. I'm just saying, we'll see. But I hope you guys are all having fun. Those of you that have chosen to partake in college football 26, it's a good time. All right. Let's get into this here. We've got a show packed, 2 full segments of SEC media days galore for you guys. You know that I think we do this every year, don't we, Austin, where we spend 2 segments on it?
We do. Yeah.
Okay. It's just, it feels
hard not to.
We're not going to do that just yet. Here, I almost got out of the order here, but we're just teasing people. That's what's coming up on the 2 main topics. We're going to start with Auburn Potpourri like we always do, but SEC media day talk is coming. In Auburn Potpourri, let's start right here. I think you and I were hoping this could be the major topic today, but sadly, thankfully, we got to watch a semblance of some Auburn basketball this summer once again because of our friends at War Ready. But sadly, their time has once again ended just too short, and I felt like this team, Austin, was going to be the ones that moved forward, and they were in position to do it. Auburn's alumni team in the basketball tournament. We talked about it a lot. If you need explanation for what that is, we got other things out there. We won't take the time to do that today. They played this past weekend in their first game of a 64-team tournament. X-rated and beat them. Had to come back, but they beat them. Yeah, they with the whole Elam ending, and we had a cool ending with that, with an Auburn guy getting a dunk there at the end. But today they had to take on La Familia, which is the Kentucky alumni team. A lot of people have them favored to win the whole thing, and Auburn, already took them down to the wire and had a shot to win the whole thing with the Elam ending at the end. So disappointment again, Austin. But I felt like, am I too stretching a little bit to say this felt like the best team that'd been out there thus far?
Oh, I definitely think so. We covered it last week or week before about how this is kind of where the road has ended for War Ready the last several years. Second round, and felt like this team this year might have a chance. No, but I watched the entire game today from start to finish. I did not get to watch the first one, so I had the entire game on start to finish, and they they got down by I think 11 or 12, maybe 13. Early in the or late in the first half, and then came back and had the lead, and also had you said a shot to win it, but had like 3 or 4 shots to win it there at the end, and just couldn't get them to fall. But Wendell Green did what Wendell Green does, and put the team on his back once again after kind of a slow start, and a lot of others on this team did well. I was really impressed with Stretch Akingbola. Thought he did well, but this team fought tooth and nail with Kentucky or La Familia, and it echoed and shadowed what Bruce and the Auburn boys have been doing during the regular season for several years now. So I really hate it's over. I thought it was a really fun team, but to take Kentucky to the wire like that in their own court and with their fans everywhere, it was definitely the best showing I think we've seen from War Ready.
And they had Willie Cauley-Stein, I think that's how you say his name on there, which is a former NBA player and pretty big name in the Kentucky spaces. So, and it was at their home court because they were the host of that regional and had all the fans behind them. And Auburn nearly silenced that crowd because, like you said, multiple shots. Actually, I said one shot, multiple shots and chances to, in the Elam ending, just put the dagger in their hearts. Weren't able to close it out. I was really impressed with that. There are indications, it seems, based off of current social media posts I saw, that let's run it back again next year. So I think we can plan to be talking about this for the future. But for now, sadly, the 2025 War Ready edition has come to a close. And whether it was Wendell Green with his what he's become known for in this tournament, LaRon Smith had that putback dunk to win the first game. I thought Malik had some highlights as well. You talked about Babatunde. It was nice to, hey, real quick, it was so good to see Yaheem Hudson out there playing more because he took a role player type of situation on this year's team, and so it was just nice to see him out there and play a lot and be part of that team. So congrats in some ways. We are sad for War Ready for making it to the second round and putting together a strong team, but the road ends here. We'll hopefully talk about you guys a little bit more in the future, though. Let's talk about the men's the MLB a little bit more. Last week, we kind of started our conversation on this because it was happening as we were going on. We talked about Ike getting drafted, how big a deal that was, the history of the first round, who was all in there. But after we had recorded that, the next day of the draft is when all the big action started happening in terms of numbers for Auburn's baseball players. So let's give you some potential yes for the MLB, but those that were drafted for Auburn out of for the MLB draft, the last portion of it. We got Eric Snow going to the Blue Jays, Dylan Watts to the Blue Jays, Cam Tilley to the Mets, Sam Dutton to the Athletics, just the Athletics, not the Oakland, not the Las Vegas Athletics yet. I had to correct myself a few times on post for that. Diamondbacks got Hayden Murphy, and Cade Fisher rounded out the draft portion to the Red Sox. There's certainly some others we want to talk about here in a second, but what sticks out to you from that list? Names, teams that picked up players, Austin, but that's your full list, including Ike Irish.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest name there as far as production is definitely Eric Snow. I think he, had a good enough year that it looked like he might have a chance to go high enough where he'd like to go. And I think that probably sealed it for him to the Blue Jays. Did you say the sixth?
Say that again.
Sixth round.
The sixth round. I didn't say the rounds, but I think that was the sixth round.
Yeah. And so I think that'll be a good opportunity for Eric. I think he'll probably go take that deal and go. And I think, I think that's a big gap for Auburn to lose. I think you've already seen, if you've been following any kind of signings or portal signings, that they've kind of already accounted for what that might look like, and some JUCO guys and transfers early. But however, I think that's a big loss for Auburn in terms of a guy who did a lot of everything this year.
Yeah.
And kind of had to be put out of his comfort zone due to injuries a few times and things like that. But had a decently big postseason and a good year for Auburn. The rest is pitching, right? And Auburn certainly had a better year on the pitching mound this year. And I think that proved it by when you look at that's a total of 6 drafted? No. Yeah, 6 pitchers.
Drafted. That would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 pitchers drafted. Yes, 5.
I think of 6.
You may be applying someone who is signed onto there, but I think I've got my numbers right. I could be wrong, but I think it's 6 total on there that get picked up by that. Here's what sticks out to me. I always like to look at just like who picks up who. The Blue Jays love them some Auburn Tigers. Look, you had recently Josh Donaldson out there with the Blue Jays. That was, I know, a couple years past, but
MVP year.
Yeah, just an MVP type of situation out there. So obviously they like that. Cam Tilley back in some orange and blue with the Mets. It hurts us Braves fans a little bit, but hey, Sam Dutton, I thought he would go a little bit higher after the year. He had to as well. But listen, this isn't about necessarily where you get drafted. It's the opportunity. You do with it from this point what you want to. And so those are your guys, including Ike Irish, who we've already talked about in great detail, who got an opportunity to be drafted for the MLB for the upcoming seasons. Signees, there were a few of them, I should say, outside of those that got drafted, 3 to be specific. We have Carson Myers for the Blue Jays. Again, the Blue Jays love some Auburn Tigers, apparently. Derek Fabian went to the Colorado Rockies, and then Parker Carlson went to the New York Mets. So those are your 3 guys, unless I'm missing someone that got so far. Maybe there will be some others that got picked up in some type of deal. Once again, it's your opportunity, whether you were signed, drafted, you were a top 10 pick, whatever. This is your opportunity to do with what you want to do with it at this point. We're just thankful to see their names get called in some way. Anything stick out to you from those 3 guys, or anybody you expected to maybe get drafted?
No, I think that's about right. I think maybe Carson Myers, I think he just had a lot of tape and a lot of big innings that he was involved in. I could have seen him going really late, but I think he ended up in a good situation. And then Derek Fabian, I think that probably surprised a lot of people, but I think his defense really shows if they can get the bat going that he can ascend through the minors pretty quickly. So I think that's a good position for him to be into in the Colorado organization. I'll look forward to kind of seeing where his career might take him through there.
Absolutely. And I love that as well for the Derek Fabian situation. Certainly he was known for his defense, but his bat struggled, especially down the stretch. And listen, you get some professional, not to say that you weren't getting good help here in those regards, but let's get a new set of, teachers and mentors in that hitting space, combine it with that amazing defense. Obviously someone sees the value in a Derek Fabian. So we'll see how his career goes. But for all these 3 guys, all the guys that got drafted, whether you're apparently a Blue Jay or a New York Met that clearly love the Auburn Tigers, this was a great draft for the 2025 situation and signings and draftees for Auburn baseball. Let's talk about some golf. Let's do that one. I feel like we need to always spend the opportunity talking about the other programs that deserve more and more respect. Certainly men's golf has done that with a recent national championship. Sadly, weren't able to get it this year, but listen, they had a pretty good squad. And if you haven't heard, unless things have changed, and I didn't know about it, Jackson Coyvin's coming back and is already tearing it up and is like, is this like pre-PGA stuff that he's doing right now, Austin?
Yeah, I mean, he gets to play as an amateur, and he's been the high amateur for pretty much everything. At one point, he might still be. I'm not really sure. He might still be the highest ranked amateur in the world right now. So he's certainly ready, but I mean, that should only excite you if you're an Auburn fan for him to be coming back.
Combine that with obviously returning talent. Combine that with some people, young guns that are coming in that everybody's excited. Maybe Auburn returns to form this year, and you got to know your path to do so. We have the men's golf schedule to look at. I'm going to bring it on the screen for everybody who's watching live right now, and those that watch the replay. So if you're listening, unfortunately, we're not going to run through the whole thing because it is just going to be a lot of reading, a lot of long names for some of these things here. But there are 10 team events and 2 individual tournaments mixed in starting in September 15th and 16th. They'll play October as well, but then they'll take a long break as they typically do in the winter, February, March, April, leading up to May, where SEC championships, NCAA championships, and obviously going back out to Carlsbad, which we expect them to do, by the way, will be May 29th through June 3rd. So that'll take you through the whole year. Men's golf is one of those sports that you call it technically a spring sport because that's when it ends, but it happens the whole year. Here's the sad thing for me, Austin, on this particular one. There is no Auburn at this moment. There is no Auburn hosted tournament in Auburn, Alabama that I see right now. The closest one would probably be I'm thinking
Franklin.
That's the one I was leaning on. Richmond Hill, Georgia. I feel like that one.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe Georgia, Tennessee, Florida. They're obviously going back out to Hawaii for the Amir Ari Invitational, which they always go to. But those are your opportunities to see the Auburn men's golf team this year. I'm sure some of them will be, or at least a few rounds will be televised. But as I've tried to get us back on screen there, listen, I know that it's not the thing that we stick closest to throughout the entirety of the year, but it's certainly something that Auburn fans should be paying a little bit more closer attention to the way that they've been performing over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think you're right. What stood out to me is like you said, the not having an Auburn one at the Auburn University Club. I think, like you said, we all expect them to host a regional there.
So there you go.
So there's your opportunity. Certainly nothing guaranteed, but the way Coach Kleinert has this program, you certainly expect that is a annual event now. And then, I think getting to play Sawgrass in Ponte Vedra, where the Players Championship is going to be a really cool venue for Auburn as well. I think, of course, it's not only about Jackson Coyven. This is about the entire team, but there's a lot of high courses and high clubs they're going to get to play at that can only prepare him and for the next level. And it's all about recruiting, right? You can continue to tell your guys who you're trying to get to come to Auburn that you will be prepared for the next level when that time comes. And I think a lot of these places get to do that. I am looking forward to, Kyle always annually takes us out to Hawaii for this invitational in early February. So I'm glad to see they're going again so that you get to take us again. That'll be fun.
Yes. Put it on the docket, but if you do show up at the airport, I won't be there, and neither will be your ticket. So you can get yourself out there and just call it the E2C Network annual trip. But maybe one day we can follow men's golf out to Hawaii during the early or middle winter months. It would be very, very nice to do that. So that's the men's golf schedule. We'll be looking for that the rest of the 25-26 season. And I want to round us out with this because I think it's important to talk about not only recruiting for Auburn football. I know a lot of y'all love that, talk about that, but I love when stories like this happen. We had a big commit this week. And can I take a second for just a little bit of a rant here, Austin?
Oh boy.
Is the most overused word in recruiting sites, spaces, conversations, post, elite. Can I just, do you notice that trend? Everybody can't be elite. Not everybody is. Like I'm not even talking about stars, things like that. That's what grinds my gears this evening. So sorry that I had to get that out of there. I saw that posted again today, and I was like, why do we characterize every single one as elite? Anyway, sorry, I'm just being grumpy for some reason. The good news this week is we have this brand new commitment with a family tie. Brand new offensive lineman commit for 2026, Wilson Zaire, brother of former Auburn tackle Killian Zaire. You know how much we love it when we get our Auburn family guys back. So another one in the fold, Austin.
Another one in the fold. Really good get for Auburn too. I know a lot of people, right or wrong, like to say that we shouldn't just take people just because they have Auburn family ties. I tend to agree. It certainly is an added plus in your benefit, though, if you do have one. But Wilson's certainly talented in his own right, wanted by all the big ones. And so it's one of those, if he's not playing for you, you're probably playing against him.
Mm-hmm. And so Carl, I was going to say this one, I don't know why I went with Carl for some reason, but Gus Malzahn obviously played a big part in this recruitment because he's at Florida State now.
That's right.
And he had a big tie with Killian. And certainly could have been some trepidation there with that. Alabama was at play here, as you said. All the big ones wanted him. So to play on that family tie, get him here. Let's get him back in the orange and blue. Keep this thing going. You got the Falks here. You got the wide receiver brothers, Duke and Smith. Thank you. I knew it was a very common Smith, Duke and Eric Smith. And so we'll just keep the vibes going here at Auburn and keep the family ties going, but brand new commitment and the next phase of rebuilding this class that so many people feel like is falling apart. But that once again might be just a little bit of hyperbole. All right, let's talk about our main topics this evening. SEC Media Days has happened, and boy, it always delivers. Maybe not as much as the days of Les Miles and Steve Spurrier, and even, may he rest in peace, when Mike Leach was there and literally has the record for the quickest starting questions.
Love it.
It's awesome. That is just straight up Mike Leach stuff right there. So we're going to spend 2 whole segments diving into Auburn and SEC Media Days stuff in general. Let's start with all the Auburn stuff. We have discussed previously who was going to be representing Auburn. Obviously, Coach Hugh Freeze. Your other representatives were offensive center Connor Liu. We also had returning Keldrick Falk from our defensive line, and then Jackson Arnold, as we discussed. Probably not a shock that he would come, especially this should be the indicator that he's the starting quarterback. So let's start right there, Austin. I mean, is that the indicator that he's the starting quarterback?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty big indicator there. Don't think there's much to be surprised around. As long as he stays healthy, I think he'll be first one taking snaps for Auburn and Waco, and it certainly seemed like from his teammates talking about it and Coach Freeze talking about it, they have all the confidence in the world in him.
So we are not entering fall camp with a quarterback controversy in your mind?
No. Nope.
Okay. I just want to make that very clear because I'm still getting asked that to this day.
Sure, like, you are.
People continue to ask me, who's the starting quarterback going to be? I'm like, guys, where you been? This has been done for a while. It feels, I will always say this until I hear the words starter and Jackson Arnold leave Hugh Freeze's mouth, which it very rarely does. He doesn't like to do that traditional type of openly naming someone in those phrases, but I just will always leave that room for error. But all the tea leaves show you that Jackson Arnold is going to be the starting quarterback. What did anything stick out to you this week from his conversations? I know we got to talk mainly about what Hugh discussed, but anything about Jackson Arnold and what you saw from interviews stick out to you?
Well, I think he talked highly about his time at Oklahoma and talked about how it just really needed to be a change of pace for him, a change of scenery. I thought, he spoke the obvious and said that it was very clear to him what kind of talent level Auburn had in the wide receiver room, and that was appealing to him. Talked a lot about how they've had that relationship with the receivers, and he's been able to get a lot of work in with them. They want to work. They all want to build that chemistry, and spoke about a lot of examples of that. All very normal things, right? Like nothing that jumped out and was controversial or anything like that. But I think just made a lot of sense. And what you want to hear from a guy who is your, presumed, all things considered, however you want to say it, your starting quarterback.
Sure.
Feels relaxed, feels not too nervous about the opportunity. And I think that has to be a good sign for you and us if we're Auburn fans, and seeing a guy who's comfortable, a little bit more confident than maybe he was toward the end of his last spot, and going into this year. I think that we'll get into what Coach said in a minute, but that's my overwhelming takeaway from this is confidence just came from this team and from the representatives of Auburn there. And I don't think that you should have not expected that, but I think that it says a lot about how it kind of leans into how everyone else has been talking about this Auburn team, despite where they've been the last couple of years.
Yeah. I think when you say confidence too, we'll clarify that this is not an arrogant situation. This is just being secure within themselves. And I think there's a word I'll bring up in a second that kind of helps explain why maybe there's just this security that they have. Not that they're going to have an amazing, undefeated season, but that they're a good team and they can go out there and be play with the best of them out there in the SEC and in college football as well. What stuck out to me from Jackson Arnold was when asked, of course, he's getting asked about wide receivers, Cam Coleman, Eric Singleton, and people like that. But he called out Horatio Fields from Wake Forest. And when I've had conversations with people in streams or out in person, stuff, people will always want to talk about those too, and rightfully so. But I've also often said it's usually that guy behind the main ones that you kind of got to wait and see who's going to emerge. And I think there's a lot of candidates for Auburn that could be. Jackson Arnold feels like Horatio Fields could be one of those guys based off one of his interviews that I saw, maybe getting slept on a little bit. And if you think about a comparison, think about the guys that sometimes fall into the background when you've got bigger stars, at least in the public's eye. A Darius Slayton, look what he's doing now. A Terrell Zachary. I mean, he would just come out of nowhere and just dash the hearts of anybody. And when he was on that particular teams. So to me, Horatio Fields getting called out by Jackson Arnold was a big thing that stuck out from their particular talk. Let's move into talking about Hugh Freeze, because I think a lot of that can be covered in everything that was talked about. Here's the buzzword for me this week, and from his main press conference, but kind of went across the whole board, even into the players' question and answers and press conferences and interviews. The word assessment. There was a lot about questionnaires and psychology personality tests being discussed a lot at interviews and press conferences. Coach Hugh Freeze brought those up when asked about them, especially too, and talked about them not just being for the players and even more specifically for transfer portal guys that you're trying to get to know very fast and find the right fits, but themselves taking those tests and trying to figure out how they, the coaches, Hugh Freeze, can best serve his players, specifically his quarterback. So for all the, whether you liked having Peyton Thorne as the quarterback last year or not, I think that at least taught Hugh a lot about how he can better serve his quarterbacks in the future. And I think that's why that word assessment came up for me a lot. So what did you think about these personality tests that are happening or had happened? What's your thoughts on those?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that it made a lot of sense when Coach brought it up in his early part of his monologue. I think he provided a lot of examples about how it's helped him not just on how you coach these kids on the practice field and during the workouts or in film review, but he even brought up how he saw Jackson Arnold that morning and thought about, I need to make sure I tell him this, not to boost his ego or
not to like play like good little boy, things like that.
But the way, and I'm going to use this and it's going to sound mushy-gushy, it's not right, but that we talk about love languages. There's certain ways people feel affirmation, and we're all different people. God has created all of us very differently. And so being able to use that and use the strengths and weaknesses of different individuals on your team that you might have had an idea of, but can know more and hear from them more intimately through these tests, I think can only help a leader of who's got so many men under him that he's trying to manage and get the best out of and become better men and better players. So I thought it was really cool. I think it was Justin Hokanson of On3 who did an interview this week and talked about with one of these individuals who does these personality tests, but it was related more to how Stephen Pearl and the basketball team brought this in. And I mean, if there's a program on campus you want to emulate success from right now, it's probably Auburn basketball. And so I don't think it's anything new. I don't think it's anything, earth shattering or innovative or anything like that. I think it's just a matter of Hugh Freeze and his staff has found something they think works really well for the culture of this team and how they're trying to prepare this team to have success on and off the field this season. And certainly he thought enough of it to bring it up now. And I think, like you said, those kind of things have been played out in how the confidence we saw from each of the players this week. I don't think that you see Jackson Arnold acting like that if he doesn't feel confident in his head coach and recognize where that affirmation he's getting from him. So I think it's very cool. Makes a lot of sense, and we'll have to see how well it turns out for Auburn from on the field standpoint too.
Yeah. I think it's an important thing for us to emphasize here, because one of the very unintelligent critiques I've ever heard of Hugh Freeze is that the guy never takes responsibility. The guy never, owns up to stuff. Man has literally done that thousands of times, but here he is saying, this isn't a test just for my players. This is a test for me to figure out what I need to do, what my coaches need to do to best serve these players. And obviously them too, to figure out, where you fit into all of the scheme, how we can all make this puzzle fit best together. The word assessment came up throughout the entirety of everything, across coaches to players. And to me, that screams synergy. I'm not going to sit out here and say that the word culture is thrown out a lot, even by Coach Hugh Freeze. But I think there's something to this when we kind of see this coming down the line this way. But everybody's trying to figure out how to assess and get this thing right in year 3, heading in the right direction. Speaking of heading in the right direction, let's talk about expectations. Certainly a little bit of a firestorm earlier in the offseason. You and I discussed it even in a main topic about how comments were made about what the expectations should be for Auburn this year. It was misinterpreted by a lot of people just looking for something to stir up in the middle of offseason. Of course, that never happens. So he addressed that in press conferences and said that he expects Auburn to be in the conversation for the college football playoff. So I would love to get our takes on that comment, but I'd also like to emphasize that Auburn fans listen and not react to what was and wasn't said. He said, in the conversation for the college football playoff. When you hear that, Austin, what does that specifically mean to you?
Oh, well, I mean, first and foremost, I don't want to say it's not important, but it didn't mean a lot to me because the conversation about the playoff never stops. It feels like
Sure.
like from the week 0 college game day set, you're going to hear Kirk Herbstreit, Desmond Howard, and the rest of the lot give their playoff prediction on week 0. And it's going to happen all throughout, all up until any playoff rankings, which come in November, and all the way up until a playoff decision of a bracket, which comes in mid-December. And so I think that, when I took that and I thought, well, that is an upward step, right? Because Auburn has not been in the playoff conversation at any point from August to December in the last few years. And so I think, be in the conversation, be in the discussion. I think he's right by saying they have an opportunity to be in that discussion of, say, especially with the expanded amount of teams, of if Auburn gets on a roll here in mid-October, is someone looking at them and thinking, hey, that Auburn team, they could sneak in, or this Auburn team is on a roll here. I wouldn't be surprised if they make their way to an at-large bid or something like that. So to me, I don't think he's saying that by saying we expect to be, getting a bye and playing in a semifinal game and this season. I think he said in the discussion, and it leaves open a lot of interpretation of how you want to look at it. One of my criticisms of back at the golf tournament when he said was that it was a little too pointed, and that it sounded like it was a little bit too specific on when we expect to make a bowl game. I think this kind of leaves it a little more broad open there, and it leaves it the opportunity for him to, one, kind of feed into and align himself with the expectations a lot of fans have of a favorable schedule, a very talented roster, and a very talented team this year that could be pushing for a playoff spot, but also leave it open to be, we're not saying we expect to be in Atlanta for the SEC championship. Certainly that's a goal, but we're not expecting it. He didn't have to go into specific detail about that. And so I thought it was a good answer. That's what Auburn people want to hear. We want to hear that this team has the highest of goals and the highest of aspirations. And, somebody once said that Auburn has given itself, or has, oh man, I'm butchering it here. Auburn has earned the right to dream the highest dreams, right?
That's a good way. Yeah,
and that is what happens here. You can talk about, I don't care who you are, if you're wearing any other color but these right here, you could talk about how delusional Auburn is and all those things. End all be all, Auburn people and Auburn University expects to be in those conversations. And for Hugh to come out and say that just tells me he knows the position he's in, and he has the same confidence about this team.
Certainly. And I think when you go out there in public and make those statements, obviously it corrects any logical fallacies that started to occur. Once again, I think everybody's going to interpret things differently, but I think when you go to extremes of, he barely expects to make a a bowl game, that's just ridiculous. And you're just being ridiculous, and you don't deserve to be part of any conversation in the college football realm. I'm just going to be honest with you. Either that, or you're doing it on purpose just to get the clicks and the hyperbole and all that kind of stuff. But he's also not saying, hey, we're going to be in the playoffs. He's saying we should be there, we have earned the right to dream the highest dreams. And so I think the coverage of how you approach the expectations from the fan perspective, the team perspective, I think he did say all the right things. And we'll see how the expectations play out here in just a few short weeks. It's going to be here before you know it.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to make sure, because I knew I'd heard that recently. Coach Freeze said that of President Chris Roberts in his opening monologue of that Auburn has earned the right. I was like, I feel like I just heard this, but yeah. Okay.
There you go.
I was paying attention this week.
He was paying attention, certainly. So that's, I think, expectations, assessment, some of the players that got good shout outs, anything else from Coach Hugh Freeze, Keldrick, Connor that stuck out. I mean, I know we're trying to cast a wide net here on what we're talking about, but I felt like I really learned something or took something away from each of their conversations. But if there's anything else that you'd like to talk about from the Auburn specific space.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was honestly I've already talked about the good PR standpoint. I think it was good for him to address whatever the golfing stuff is as meaningless and as dumb as it sounds, for him to get that question and handle it well. I thought was good. I think a lot of people are coming around to the side of why are we still talking about this, and this being something that's just not a talking point. For it to get asked SEC Media Days, you can have an opinion on the quality of asking that question. It was asked. I thought he handled it well. And yeah, I mean, overall, my overarching from Keldrick Fault to Connor Liu to Jackson Arnold to Hugh Freeze, and this is not just me saying this as your co-host of the Auburn Experience podcast, but panelists across the SEC Network, journalists I've talked to that were there, and radio hosts and all the things, said that this team feels confident, and they should, with the season they have coming up in a big make or break year in a lot of people's eyes, and a talented roster. Now's the time more than ever. And I just like seeing that Auburn players and their head coach just kind of feed into that same expectations and same desire that the fans want to see this thing turned around in a really big way.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we wrap that all up into a nice little bow there for the Auburn specific side of things, tons of players to watch, the ones you saw, the ones that the players themselves talked about. Obviously, the assessments have been made about what wasn't working even before those players that are new arrived here, and how do we all as a unit to make this work going forward to set the expectations, and certainly hopefully get those results coming out of what was, I thought, a very productive SEC Media Days for Auburn. And certainly we can spend the rest of our time in this main topic segment coming back to some of that Auburn specific stuff. And I think a lot of this is really directly related. But I kind of want to take a little broader stroke here with SEC Media Days. So I feel like it's important for Auburn football fans to have that wide net to look through. We did just in the last segment talking about the golf thing. I will bring up Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin, man. I've talked to a variety of people about their opinions on him. Some hate the man. Some love the man. I kind of fall somewhere maybe a little bit now more. I like him more and more as time goes on. I'm so glad he's not our head coach, to be honest with you. And I know some of you are going to hate me for that statement. But I also love that he just doesn't give a crap, and he will just stir up the biggest things. For those of you who don't know, with the whole golf thing with Hugh Freeze, ridiculous as it is, the fact that here's how you know this is a ridiculous story and a ridiculous thing that it even became a story. Lane picked it up and ran with it and was having fun with it about the whole fishing thing, and the fact that he got asked about it, you knew he was loving it. The fact that's what he was waiting for. It's the reason all those social media posts came out. So do you get annoyed by Lane at all? Or where are you falling on Lane Kiffin?
It cracks me up that Lane is in touch with so many things, like the golfing story and things that are just on the peripheral in the sports world. I think that he is a lot like a lot of us as fans, and just lives for the SEC moments and the things like that. And I think that that's probably part of it. I do think it was really important, though, to see from both him and Hugh them talk about their relationship, and that they're friends. They love to joke with each other. I think Hugh said he's not really on social media as far as quote unquote in an official role. And for him, I think he was obviously aware of it, but talked about how they make each other laugh. And I think that, like most things, that it gets taken to a heightened level by fans and people who aren't involved in the situation directly. And I think that was a good way to see the transparency and the lightness of that situation.
Right.
No, I mean, I look, I'm somebody who thought Lane Kiffin would have done really well here in the last carousel. Variety of reasons, it didn't work out, whatever. But I think that Lane is a fun character in the SEC we have now. You brought up all those coaches who are not here anymore, who made SEC media days hilarious. I don't know if we'll get to it because it's not really Auburn related. Did you watch any of Elijah Drinkwitz?
A little bit, but not. What is there something specific?
That dude is the closest we have to Mike Leach. He had me rolling laughing. Just a absolute goofball. Very much harkened back the days of say whatever you want up there. He was on the last day, and so I mean he just
didn't care at that point. He's like
he and Lane though, man. I think they're the closest we've got to that kind of era of SEC football, and so no, Lane doesn't bother me that much.
Yeah, I didn't. It doesn't bother me. I love watching Lane just have fun with situations and stirring up this whole Auburn Ole Miss thing even more. He knows what he's got there kind of in a bottle, and he likes to uncork it every once in a while. So it's fun stuff. Kind of using things to roll on top of each other. It's not necessarily specific to SEC Media Days. It became more of a thing. There was this discussion about a certain coach rumored to be thinking about making a comeback. And a lot of people began to circulate the idea of one Nicholas J. Saban. I don't know if that's his middle name, but that's what I'm going with. Nicholas J. Saban.
Please be Jay.
J. Saban becoming Auburn's next head coach. First of all, if you are even entertaining a new Auburn head coach thing, you are not setting yourself or this team up for success and the way you're going to handle this season. Just to make that perfectly clear. But we can have some fun with this here, at least to discuss the novelty factor. Maybe ridiculousness. Austin, Nick Saban, the next Auburn head coach. Could it happen? Would it happen? Should it happen?
No, and no. It's not happening in any realm. I think that all got started by his former quarterback Greg McElroy, which I'm sure he left a very kind voicemail on Greg's phone telling him all the reasons he should not have said that on national TV.
Probably more words were expletives than actual words.
Probably would not have been something coach can say on College Game Day set.
Not safe for work.
Though he's come close. I think that I don't see that happening at all whatsoever. I kind of more echo what Paul Feinbaum said about it the first time you'll ever hear me say something like that. But I think I more echo what Paul Feinbaum said about it is he's got a great setup right now. Still very much involved in the game, very still viewed as the czar of college football and for all that he's done for it. And I don't see that comeback at all. I certainly don't see it in wearing the orange and blue. I think that could be just a multiverse that we're not going to live in or see.
Multiverse.
That is not one. You might see a what if show about that one day, but it will not be in this lifetime or the next. I'm going to say, no, I don't see that happening. I don't see him being a coordinator. I don't see him being. I think coach is done. My thing is, why would you? Like your reputation is as high as it's going to get. There's no one touching you right now from the world of championships and all the other things. But no, and certainly not as Auburn's head coach. I don't see any of that happening.
Although it would be hilarious just to watch
the
heads roll across the state and see them process that. They have a hard time processing just daily life. Imagine trying to process that one. That would be quite hilarious to watch it happen. But like you said, it ain't happening. Other things that happened at SEC Media Days. This is something I have been trying for the longest time, Austin, to prepare our viewers, our listeners, our people, part of our little family, the Auburn family, but the collective Auburn family for this notion. There may come a day, folks, where Auburn and Georgia may not play every year in college football. That notion was brought to the forefront during an interview with Keldrick Falk, and he looked just about as surprised as anybody. Looked like I got hit by a deer in headlights type of situation there. When that was brought up, and he said, "What?" Like he was so taken aback by the possibility that someone could even think that was could happen, that Auburn and Georgia couldn't play, and then he realized, oh, well, maybe there have been discussions about future SEC schedules where that doesn't happen. And I think it's right now, currently, more of a reality than people are willing to wrestle with unless things change in a certain specific scheduling pattern. Where are you at on this? Do you think it's likely we're about to see Auburn and Georgia go away, or do you think there will be a schedule change to negate that or to keep that happening?
My thing with it is, and this all is a larger issue with going to 8 or 9 conference games, right? Like that right now, the SEC is one of the only power conferences that plays 8 conference games. As Commissioner Sankey said in his opening monologue at the start of the week, I can't really find someone who would trade their 9 conference game for our 8 game conference schedule, which I think should tell you all you need to know about the difficulty in the SEC. However, because of the mathematics of things and whatever, there's this notion that the secondary, I hate even saying that, but the secondary rivalries might get lost in the annual scheduling if you go to 9. To me, that doesn't make a lot of sense. I understand how that would happen because you'd have 2 permanents, then you only have 7, and you're left with, you take yourself out, you're left with 15 or 13 teams left, then it'd be 7. What about the other 6? To me, you just have 3 permanents, and that way you have 6 that you rotate on and off every year, every 4 years. Every kid gets to go to every SEC stadium. Some might call it the pods. I don't know why we don't talk about the pods anymore. Like, it's like we all just forgot. And I just don't understand that. I feel like that solves everything unless they just don't want to build the spreadsheet to figure out who everyone has to play as their third opponent. They do it in basketball just fine, but apparently for football, it's harder. I would introduce them to my friend Charles, aka ChatGPT. They could probably do it for you. So to me, it's more on the side of it doesn't have to be this way. Which
my favorite phrase. My favorite phrase.
Let's not go there. It doesn't have to be this way because there's a solution. And so, to the more general specific point of what you were talking about with Auburn, Georgia. Sure. Is it a possibility? I think so. If you go down the way that they want to go, I would love to hear. I didn't get an invitation to SEC Media Days, but I would love to hear why a third permanent opponent is not more discussed. Is that just not something the coaches want? Is that not something? There's too many rivalries in the SEC for me to see where that wouldn't be a good thing.
Right.
But that's not what is discussed every time we talk about 9. It's talking about how we're going to lose rivalries. And if you want to me, you don't even have to say, no, we're going to find a way to keep them. You just say, we're going to bring more back. And they don't do that. So I don't understand it. I think it'd be a travesty if we lose Auburn, Georgia. I think it'd be a travesty if we lose Alabama, Tennessee. I don't get it.
Texas A&M, because they're not giving up Oklahoma. So that's
I just got it back. I just don't understand it. I don't understand the math behind it, and I'm sure someone out there can educate me on it. Maybe if there's a better reason, but it doesn't have to be that way. And I wish that it would be more talked about. But I don't know. Do you see it differently? Do you see a way that there's a reason that they would rather lose Auburn, Georgia in these secondary rivalries?
No, it makes so much sense to me that it's stupid that we haven't already just done it. So there's got to be reasons that we're not privy to, right? The reality is this, folks. If the goal is to make everybody see in the current setup with 8 SEC games, and the goal is to make everybody see each other as much as possible. Right now, only Alabama can be retained with 8 games, and then Georgia has to go. That's it's not happening.
Right.
But if we go to, and if you switch over to the 9 games, you could make a case where maybe you lose Georgia as well. But like you talked about, it's just makes sense. You can do Look, I'll say it right now. I don't get, some of y'all are scared to take on these 3 every year. I'll take on Alabama, Georgia, and LSU every
I knew you were going to
year.
say that.
I want it. I'll actually, you know what? I want Florida more than
I was
anything
about to
else.
say that, but
I prefer Florida.
I think you can make a case for a lot of teams for Auburn's third one, and probably a lot of other SEC teams. But I think Florida, LSU, and Tennessee are 3 you can throw in there right now, and there will be people that have problems with all of them. There will be people that are happy with all of them. So I don't understand it quite frankly, on why it's that big of a deal, and why we haven't gone to that. My only thing is that is the vast majority of coaches and the commissioner and upper administration just using that as a reason to say, we don't want to go to 9 games. Yeah. We just want to stay at 8 games. And if we go to 9 games, you'll have to lose this. And it's like, well, that's not the case. But if you just want to stay at 8 games, just say it. There's a lot that doesn't make sense to me about it. I personally, I've said this from the get-go, when they add teams, whatever, the most important part to me is that we get to go to all the stadiums in 4 years, and the kids, we get to see all the teams. I think that's a part of college football that's just gotten lost. And the SEC still has the opportunity to do it with how they're regionally based and those kind of things. So I don't know, man. We'll see.
Agree. If they have all their problems solved, they just ask us. That's all I hear right now.
Just give us a call.
Just pay us the big bucks and give us a call. Then we'll make all the decisions, make this easy for you. We're really late here, but I got to get this last bit in here because I think it's going to set up for something juicy early in the season. Apparently, old Texas A&M players had a little bit of something to say about Auburn and the way the game went for them last year. Just a quadruple overtime?
Quadruple, yeah.
Overtime. Great connection from Peyton Thorne to Keandre Lambert-Smith to set up what was a great defensive stand, and then debate whether or not we should have rushed the field, but we did. May or may not have been on there. That's not really about the point. But apparently they have marked Auburn, 4th game of the season for Auburn too, on the road, back-to-back opening SEC games for Auburn. How'd that happen? We got something interesting brewing here, Austin. I think the Texas A&M wants a piece of Auburn this year.
Yeah, I hope so. And I hope that Auburn looks like a formidable opponent against them because, let's just be honest. Auburn had no business beating Texas A&M last year, and that's what happens when Jordan Hare becomes haunted. So we'll get their chance they'll get their chance at Kyle Field, and hopefully Auburn's ready to go. Hey, look, that'll be their 2nd game in the state of Texas, so we'll see how they're faring by then. But yeah, I was kind of surprised to see all of that too. It's just like I don't know. It's not it's not like Auburn had the better season last year or anything like that, but that stuck in their minds. And hey, Jordan Hare can do that too sometimes.
He can do it. It's a nightmare. Some say, is what I was told by people who seem to be in the know about such things.
Oh, the future coach of Auburn.
The future coach of Auburn, apparently. That's what I heard today. I heard today that here's what I took away from our show today, Austin. Golfing is what we should be talking about. Nick Saban is the next head coach of Auburn football, and I didn't have a third one there.
We can play 9 games with traditional rivalries.
Play 9 games. Let's just make it 10 at this point. Why not?
Sure.
About that. That's SEC Media Days 2025 in a nutshell. It's the unofficial kickoff for football season, so we're going to be getting more and more into
talking season
as we get further and closer to August 29th. That's going to do it for episode 134 of the Auburn Experience. We appreciate you being here with us and spending some time with us. If you want to keep up with me, do so on X at KyleLoomis24. Hit us up, email E2C Network at gmail.com, or our socials anywhere, E2C Network or E2C_network on Twitter. For some reason, I couldn't get it back then. Anyway, where can they find you?
Yeah, on X, on Instagram, at Austin G. Scott. You heard the email. Please tell me why we can't do 9 conference games. I really want to know why we can't do it and why the quads gets not talked about. It just doesn't make sense.
Make it make sense. Make it make
sense. The math ain't mathing.
The math ain't mathing, and y'all seen me do math in this show, and it is painful to watch it. And I can recognize that math ain't mathing. With that being said, thanks for hanging out and being part of our little family within the Auburn family. Until we talk to you again, War Eagle.
War Eagle.